Welcome back, everybody. This is the Level Up Podcast where we learn how to go from agent to entrepreneur. Greg Harrelson is with us. I'm so excited. We're going to talk about just the month of December and what is on Greg's mind, what he's talking with his agents in his office about. And we've had an amazing conversation behind the scenes that I hope that we can bring some of those things out into the open for you guys. First of all, Greg, back from the Ironman. What is up?
Oh man, yeah. I don't know if I'm happy or not happy that you bring that up. I mean, it's kind of like, man, personally, it was a big achievement for me personally. And there's so many people that are listening that have probably done multiple Ironmans, and there's some that have probably been afraid to ever do anything like that. But I can just say it's amazing. So when you even say that, I immediately go back. It's like, gosh, am I in pain or am I actually feeling the joy? Right now I'm feeling the joy.
Okay, good. I was going to say, if I asked you a couple of weeks ago, you'd be all pain and no gain yet, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, it's interesting because you said something to me and before we hit record, which is that you never thought you'd do an Ironman, which I thought was an interesting thing to say because there's so much out there of, well, if you don't believe you can do it, you'll never be able to do it. I think you're living proof that you kind of broke down how you're going to do it. You committed to it, and then you said, I will figure it out. And I remember that conversation when you first committed to it, and you, sure enough, you figured it out. I don't know how you did it, but you figured it out.
Yeah, I figured it out. Well, I'll let me just share real quick, though, on that, because I guess I said to you, just in friendly conversation, I really didn't think I could do it. And a lot of that has to do with my self-image, or just a personal opinion. I say to people all the time, I'm really not built like an endurance athlete. And I think that like some people would probably say that, and I never really did endurance types of things when I was, growing up. But I was always very inspired by people that did. And, but I really just looked at myself maybe in the mirror, and then I looked at people that were doing those things, and I said, yeah, I probably can't do it, as if like, that's not a me thing, that's a them thing. But I will reveal and share something a little bit more on the intimate side, and that is this. I have a dream book from 15 years ago, or maybe 14 years ago, probably 15 years ago. And it has in there me actually doing an Ironman. And I turned 50 this year, and I said, today, this is the year I'm going to do something that's been harder than anything that I've ever done. And I perceived the Ironman would be that. And I signed up. And then as I'm on my journey, I started remembering, holy cow, that's in my dream book.
This is the app. So after you committed to it, then you remember that it was something you'd wrote down years and years ago.
I wasn't looking at the dream book and says, okay, now's the time. It was, I'm in it. And then I'm just kind of, for some reason, I'm like, wait, this is in my dream book. So for those of you that ever have attempted, thought about, or wondered if these dream books and these vision boards mean anything, if I was to open up my dream book, I can tell you right now, there's so many things that without knowing or remembering it was in my dream book, there's so many things that I've checked off that list. It's quite shocking. Yeah. And I'm a big believer of that vision board, those dream boards. So for anybody that's out there that, that you feel, the cool thing about dream boards and vision boards is whether you think you can or whether you think you can't, you can still add it to the dream board. Mm-hmm. And then, and just watch how like life just unfolds and kind of attracts those things and attracts the right people into your life that allows you to get those things done. That's kind of what I think happened to me.
Yeah. It's a good intro for our conversation because I love that. I love that approach, and I can say the same thing. Is that my journal is kind of on my phone on an app and review it regularly, and I can years later go back and look at the things that I had written on that and realize how many of them I checked off just because that was part of my self-image, that this is where I'm heading, and that embeds itself in your subconscious, and you just make decisions in your ordinary life that moves you towards that because you've decided that's where you want to go. All right, so let's shift gears a little bit and talk about December, because I didn't want to do just a normal rah-rah motivational, hey, keep going, close out the year strong. There's a million of those. I think what's really interesting and unique about you is that you've structured your life and your work routines in such a way that you can keep the momentum going in December. And I want to pull some of those things out that I think people can learn from so that, yes, they can keep growing strong in December. But then more importantly, going into 2021, they can start to make some changes in their routines and emulate, I think, some of the things that you do just in your normal day and your normal week that gives you the ability to keep going strong like you're going to all December. So let's talk a little bit about just your philosophy on finishing the year strong and why you don't really feel like you have to take a break, that you're not afraid of burnout. Like, why is that?
Yeah, and to put it in context, in December, I think there's a few things that happen with agents. There's agents that are just flat out lazy and say, oh, it's the holidays and a lot of parties, so they kind of take the time off. And then you've got those people that actually need a break, right? Because they may be physically like exhausted. They've really worked hard, and it's been a tough year, 2020, and they've really worked hard. And every year they just feel like, hey, I need a break, and it's logical that I take a break at this time.
Right.
Okay. So I think both of those are real. Okay. Those are real situations that we face as an industry. For some reason, besides all the positive things like less people are working, people still need to buy and sell real estate. There's a lot of business out there. That's surely one reason why I keep going in December. But I just don't feel like if we're in a position where we feel like we need a break in December, then it's not because it has nothing to do with December's a good time. It has everything to do with what we didn't do the other 11 months through the year.
Yeah.
People, I've kind of, I guess, bragged, or maybe it's just something I'm proud about that I share. And some people may take it the wrong way and think I'm bragging. But I think as I reflect and I mention what I'm getting ready to mention, I think I'm proud to be able to share my schedule, because I think it was the designing of the schedule in the way that I did that allows me to go all year without feeling burnout.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm not the bionic man by any means. I'm just a little bit more intentional about conditioning myself mentally and physically to prevent burnout.
Yes, exactly.
And so my schedule for years has been, years and years is, I'm off usually around 3:00. I don't work nights, don't work weekends. And typically on Friday, I'm off at 12. Right now, lately, I've been doing something from 12 to 1. And so I really get off at 1:00. But it's like the Fred Flintstone, at 1:00, that dang horn goes off. I'm like, look out, friends, because I'm calling you to find out what the heck we're doing the rest of the day. And then I'm out there doing things. And when I get off at 3, I'm not going home and watching the news on the couch. I'm typically going out and playing tennis, or I'm going out to, maybe I'm pursuing things that I'm interested in. Like I'm going to my warehouse and I'm staring at my classic cars, or I'm buying a sander. And believe me, I say I'm not cut out for endurance sports, or I'm not cut out for manual labor and working on doing body work on a car, but I'm fascinated by it. So I buy these nice sanders and I go out and sand and act like I'm this guy that's getting ready to restore this classic car, and I'm probably just ruining it.
Okay.
I can't tell you how many videos. I know it sounds like, what the hell's Greg talking about here? Can't tell you how many videos I've watched in the last 60 days on stripping and painting cars.
Interesting.
Now, why am I bringing this up? The time that I spend on YouTube watching those videos takes me away. It carries me away for a moment.
Yep.
From the grind or the hard work or the intense thinking. It's an escape, but it's an escape that's something that's healthy. I believe it's healthy. Mm-hmm. It's learning. It's fascinating to me. It could be like completely absurd to somebody else that's interested in totally different things. But you'll never catch me. You could probably ask me every month, Greg, what are you learning right now? And I'll probably be telling you something like, last year, it was baking. I was like, like, my mom makes this wonderful cake, and I'm going to start. I want to be the only friend, male and female, that I have that actually bakes from scratch. So I go get this nice mixer. I'm looking at this recipe. I'm calling my mom. She's baking these cakes. She's coaching me.
Hmm.
Yeah, I really did that. Right now it's
Okay.
body work.
Yeah.
So I think those are the types of things, those little escapes throughout the year is what prevents me from experiencing burnout. It's where I
Yeah.
don't feel like I need a break. Matter of fact, like I don't even know what I'd do if I had a break.
Yeah.
Because I'm already doing all the other things that I want to do ongoing. It's
Hmm.
not like I need a break so I can now go do the things that I've been missing in life. No, I've been doing the things that I want in my life, and I've been figuring out how to work around it. But everyone else is trying to figure out how to actually fit in their passions. You need to be figuring out how to fit in your work.
Hmm.
You schedule your passions, schedule your interests, and work around it.
Hmm.
And then from that space, I don't think you'll ever feel, or rarely will you feel, you need a break, or rarely will you feel burnout. And if you do feel burnout, it'll be like, because I do, I share with you, I don't really feel physical burnout. I feel mental burnout
Yeah.
sometimes. But I can go from feeling mentally burnt out to like 24 hours later, completely refreshed.
Mm.
I just need to get away for 24 hours. Some
Yeah.
people, because they're not doing things ongoing, they have to get away for like 2 weeks.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's where the December conversation kind of came in, because I think there's a lot of people that will tell themselves that's what they need, right? This is the like I just need I need a couple weeks off. And maybe, I think there are some really high performers that maybe, like you said, genuinely have physically and mentally burnt themselves out. And it's been a tough year on top of that, and maybe some time off is in order. But for the vast majority of agents, that's not what we're talking about. They're telling themselves a story that they're coming to the end and they're burned out, and this has been a tough year and stuff like that. But it's a story, and I
Yeah.
think that was one of the interesting things you said to me right off the bat when we first started chatting. Is something that you're telling yourself, that is you're using a certain type of language, and you're talking yourself into the belief that you need to take this long break, or take the entire month of December and kind of downshift, just kind of coast into next year. And I think a lot of people struggle, you
I'm
know.
sorry. Yeah, sorry to interrupt you. Have you ever heard that analogy or story about the two lumberjacks that are competing in chopping down a tree with an axe?
If I know where you're going with it, sort of, yes.
Okay. Well, let me just for anybody that didn't, let me just share. For those that you did have heard this, then I think it's good for all of us. But just imagine two lumberjacks, and they're competing to chop down a tree, and the tree's the same exact tree,
Mm,
or the same trees, and they're the first one who chops it down. Well, you get lumberjack number one that's going out there, and he's the one that looks like he's the show. This
mm-hmm,
guy's a lumberjack, right?
mm-hmm,
Goes out there, he's got the body for it, physically just like a monster, and goes and takes his axe and he just starts wailing at that tree and doesn't stop.
mm-hmm,
And then you have the second lumberjack that doesn't even look nearly as athletic as lumberjack number one, that goes out there and he's wailing on that tree, and then every like 5 minutes he sits down.
mm-hmm.
And people are like, what the heck's this guy doing? He's got to take a break. Is he tired? Come back at the end, what we find out is the lumberjack that was sitting down taking all those breaks wins, chops the tree. The tree falls down. And when they start analyzing the two lumberjacks, lumberjack number one was never stopped, never took a break. Lumberjack number two took a break to sharpen their axe.
Mm-hmm.
So every time they took a swing at that tree, they were taking a bigger chunk
Yeah.
out of that tree, and the tree fell faster. The person that's never taken a break and sharpening the axe is the one. That's what burnout looks like. Not only do they burn out or they exhausted, but they never chop down the tree. They never accomplish the goal.
Mm-hmm.
They actually fail to reach the goal, and they're mentally and physically exhausted.
Yeah.
And the other person's fresh, reached the goal and fresh, and says, where's the next tree?
Yeah.
See, the sharpening of the axe for me is the video of like how to strip that car,
Right.
or it's the physical commitments I have to make to do the Ironman, or the baking of the cake.
Right. Exactly.
For you guys that are out there, go ahead, comment on me, and pick on me. And I tell you right now, if you ate my strawberry cake, you'd love it.
There was something you called it, which we haven't brought up on the recording yet, which is you call them healthy distractions.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was we were chatting before the recording, and I brought up the book, The Power of Full Engagement, which is by a couple of executive coaches and sports performance guys, and they called it something different, which is active renewal, which I like both of those phrases. But we were talking about just how you've essentially, like, what gives you the strength to keep going in the months of November and December is the fact that all along the way for the rest of the year, you've built these routines and rituals into your life that actively bring you back energy. They take you out of the business mentally and emotionally, right? They take you kind of out of the chaos, essentially. They give you something that you're excited about. You're excited to learn it. Like, obviously, mastery is very important to you, so it kind of hits some of the things that are unique about you. And I think agents really underestimate that. Like, there's a lot of people that are in the business that they're either working in the business or they're with their family or something like that. And there's really just those two modes. They go from the
Yes.
chaos of the business right directly into the chaos at home. And they don't really have, there's no buffer a lot of times between those. And the rest periods at night are not really active renewal. That, just you sit down and you watch TV. That doesn't really actively renew you, and that stuff catches up to you. What's interesting is that, like, I watched my dad growing up. He had like a very similar schedule to yours when he was pastoring. And even when he would get home from that, which was essentially him by himself, by the way, he wasn't exactly steeped in chaos. But we as kids were instructed and trained to give him and my mom a half hour where they would go into the bedroom and they would just talk and hang out, the two of them alone, completely separate from the rest of us. We weren't allowed to knock. We weren't allowed to do anything. And then they would come out, and my dad would hang out with us for the rest of the evening before we went to bed. And I hadn't thought about that in a long time. But I
Is
think
that
that,
active renewal?
active
What your
renewal.
mind- That's
Yeah.
active renewal? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. And, that's a great one. And what a great a lesson that they were sharing with you that maybe, later on in life you start to get it, right?
Yeah.
Another thing I just want to mention about this active renewal thing is you also have to be responsible and don't be irresponsible with this information.
Right.
Because what some people will do is what their mind's going to say is like, hey, you know what? I'm not going to go up. I'm not going to go to work this morning. Today's my active renewal day. No, that's not how it works. My active renewal is never before 11 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm still that 8 to 11 guy, or, at least in the office before 8 and all the way to 11, lead generation mindset, right? 8 to 11. So you still have rules. And what I do is I set up where, like, everything that must get done to reach my goals must get done before 3 o'clock. Now, I'm just giving you some insight on my situation.
Yeah.
Usually, my active renewal is around between 3 and 5.
Mm-hmm.
And then at 5, I'm back into the next thing that I've thoroughly committed to, which is my family.
Yeah.
So like, it's not like active renewal. You gotta, like, to properly manage this, you focus on something that you have an interest that can take you away. Okay. But you're also responsible that you're not taking yourself away from your duties in your profession, and you're not taking yourself away from your duties and the passions you have for your family and loved ones. What we're really doing is we're eliminating all of that wasted time. And if you look at your day and you were to do a stopwatch on your day of when you're productive at what you're productive, you would find out that some of us are fairly productive at work for a few hours. We're fairly productive at home with the family for a few hours. And then you've got this middle ground where you're kind of in no man's land and you're not really that productive. What I'm focusing on is eliminating that. That's eliminate that. Like, it's like, and the way you eliminate it by this is very easy. And I'm going to give credit to a guy that I love so much, Matthew Ferry. Matthew Ferry, years ago, was one of my coaches. And Matthew, he told me I had to do something outside of business in the afternoon. This is years ago. And so I chose to take up tennis. So I hired a tennis pro to teach me tennis, and the tennis lesson was, I think, maybe 2 to 3 days a week, at least 2 days a week,
Mm-hmm.
was at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Now, 2 o'clock in the afternoon was an odd time because it was later than lunch. So he did not want me to do it at 12, where I just says, oh, I'll just take my lunch break and fit it in.
Right.
Okay. Because no, he wanted to interrupt the continuity of my current patterns.
Yeah.
So he made me do it at 2, because at 2 to 3 I'd play tennis, and he knew at that time I didn't go home at 3 o'clock. I actually would go back to work because I've already done my active renewal, right? So I had to go back to work. So he put it at a time where I had to figure out, okay, I got to get all this stuff done before I got to leave and go to this tennis lesson. And then I've got to be able to get off the tennis court and go right back into this mode of getting stuff done, and then I can go home.
Yeah.
I didn't realize until later on in life that how valuable that coaching was, because that's kind of how it still looks today.
Yeah.
It's just, instead of playing tennis at 2, I'm doing something else at 3, and then instead of going back at 4 or 5 to work, I'm actually then going to the family. And think about it, my family's winning, my business is winning. But the most important thing is I'm personally winning. And I'm personally winning by not burning out, so I can actually be present to both my family and my business.
Yeah.
And I think one thing, Matt, here we're hoping that we can accomplish on today's talk is we can't change any way we've been up to today, but you can start this for yourself tomorrow.
That's true.
And like, imagine what 2021 can look like when you're feeling really, like we've heard, I don't know if it was Tom Ferry or Mike that used to always say alive. It was alive and full of energy. You know, it's like I'm alive and I'm full of energy every day. You know, it sounds like a fantasy.
Right.
But no, it's a fantasy that you can't have that. That's what the fantasy is. The fantasy that's become our reality is that we can't have that. And I'm telling you, you can. Have you ever heard of a guy named Chris Oliva with Keller Williams?
Yes, I think so.
Chris Oliva, he's over there by Jeff Quinton in New Jersey. I coached him years ago when I was with Mike Ferry coaching, and I coached him. And I told him one day, so Chris Oliva grew up on the coast, and he, nice guy. I haven't heard from Chris for a while, but he, through my learning of Chris and talking with him, I found out that he used to surf a lot when he was younger. And at the time that I was coaching him, he was kind of like plateaued, not doing anything impressive. I can't really speak of the numbers because I don't recall the numbers, but it was nothing impressive at the moment. And I told him I refused to coach him another day if he didn't actually start surfing again.
Okay.
Because I know what surfing meant to him. Surfing is not about catching the wave. It's actually sitting on the board in a peaceful moment between the waves.
Right.
And I knew, as somebody that believes in the things that I believe in, I felt like the best coaching I could ever give him was not about real estate. It was a matter of quality of life. If anybody goes and looks up Chris Oliva out of New Jersey, Ocean City, you can email him and ask him, did Greg ever refuse to coach you unless you started surfing again? He'll say yes. And ask him how it changed his life. His business broke through massively. He started surfing in competitions again.
Whoa.
And I mean, right now, I bet you he's still surfing. He found that passion. He rekindled that passion, and that made him a better man at home and in business. And that's what we're really talking about here. Yes, it's December. I guess we're kind of talking about December because we know a lot of people are going to take a break and whether or not they need one or not. But the reality, what I'm hoping that you accomplish in December is you kick butt in business. But what I'm really hoping is that we wake up and realize that it's up to us to take charge of our lives. And when we take charge of our life outside of business, that's where our breakthroughs will come from inside of business. It really will. Really will.
Well, I can't put a finer point on it than that. So I'll shut up and get out of the way, and I will say that, yeah, just we appreciate everybody listening. Hopefully, people go and leave a review and make sure to subscribe to the show so you get the latest episodes and stuff. But man, that was really good. Where do people go just to connect up with you?
I say it every time. So just go to, find me on Facebook and do a private message. And I do want to say that the Real Estate Sales Solutions Facebook page that we have, everybody go and join that group. There's no cost or anything. But if you like, some of the conversations that I have, I post so much coaching material on Real Estate Sales Solutions. It's kind of like my little platform to give all that information out, disseminate the information, and stimulate conversations and whatnot. I actually communicate in the chat and in the comments quite often. So I'd love for more and more people to engage with us, because there's a lot of learning, a lot of collaborating going on within that page. Real Estate Sales Solutions.
Yeah, very easy. Just go to Facebook, hit that, just type that into the search bar, comes right up, request to join, and very, very easy. So as always, Greg, I really appreciate it. I know people got a ton out of this. We didn't even get to the part about how your active renewal actually builds your capacity, which then you then take back into the business. We'll have to do that. That'll be a little teaser. Maybe we'll do a follow-up conversation about that. But as always, man, I really appreciate it.
Thank you, man. Thank you so much.